In 2010, it was Limbo, a synthesis of the done-to-death puzzle platformer with a taste of that cinematic flair so often absent from the horror genre. In 2016, it was Inside. This new subgenre had already captured the hearts of so many, and Playdead's second project had an easy enough time gathering up those left behind. The stage was set and beautifully lit for anyone to capitalize on its fanbase. Well, not a year went by before Tarsier Studios released Little Nightmares and did just that. Then in 2021, after just shy of 4 years, they did it again with Little Nightmares 2, a pre-sequel and an equally successful game. Whether Tarsier Studios had planned on continuing this wildly successful franchise is left up to debate. And it'll likely stay that way for a good while, because if we rewind the clock a few years, in 2019, Tarsier Studios was acquired by Embracer Group and left the Little Nightmares IP cold on the kitchen counter. There is a Little Nightmares 3, but the franchise was handed over to Supermassive Games. Now, I haven't played it, but it seems like Tarsier Studios had the sauce but not the courtesy to leave a spare bottle in the fridge, as the reception was pretty mixed. Thankfully, there's a silver lining to this failure, and that's the hunger for something the likes of Supermassive Games couldn't quite deliver. Another stage was set, and like they'd planned it all along, Tarsier Studios was in the spotlight with a wide smile and Reanimal in its hands. Despite a few bumps in the road, like the PC Friends Pass not being available on launch, its reception is already glowing in comparison. But is it really that good? And more importantly, is it worth such a steep price tag? Oh my god. Reanimal is a spiritual successor to Little Nightmares in many ways, but it cuts that tie clean when it comes to violence. It is a violent game. It keeps that cinematic dynamism, but layers it with a brutality that really elevates the horror in this genre splice. Someone must not like kids very much, which is refreshing for public figures, because their little lights can be snuffed out in some horrifying and horrifyingly well animated ways. It's not so nice to watch, but such visceral consequences are a great way to hook a player into the mindset of someone in a world like this. That world being one of extreme ambiguity. They've really leaned into the vagueness here. The characters talk sometimes, but it's hardly exposition, nor does it tell you anything about the story until you've rolled credits, so don't expect to know what's going on. Whatever your reaction to where it ends, you will no doubt be intrigued from minute one. The game dropped me into a well, I saw a few faces staring down at me, then it dropped me into a boat and I was off to rescue the owners of those faces. That's about all it tells you. You'll explore a war-torn and flooded land with nothing but a lighter and a lantern, and while I do take issue with how it all wraps up, I love shit like this. I need more games to just not explain anything to me. Maybe it's the ADHD, but I can't sit through exposition. If I'm not ready to lick the developer's toes, I love the game so much, I will dip out at the first sign of a huge exposition dump. Granted, at some point I'd like an explanation, but it should be one of few words, like a thread to tie everything together. And I feel like I only got half a thread in the end here, but it is always refreshing to just play a game. And this one plays pretty well. The movement feels realistic and weighted properly without feeling sluggish. I didn't ever feel like I was moving too slow to stay interested or too fast to take the game in. They've absolutely nailed the speed of traversal. The chase sequences are thoughtfully designed, and though simplistic in actuality, feel very kinetic and engrossing. If you're not yet spotted, stealth is a nice change of pace. There are no deep systems to be found here, but all you need are a few hiding spots and a little diversity in what you're hiding from and where exactly you're hiding for it to hold your attention. General exploration was a highlight for me. The atmosphere is heavy and meticulous. The game doesn't need to be relentless to be fun. In fact, the quiet moments only made everything else more impactful. While it's all animated beautifully, I do feel that the combat, as limited as it was, needed a little more polishing and perhaps a bit of a rework. There's no strategy really, no little dodge, no block, just mash the attack button until everything is dead. In fairness, the crouch functions like a dodge in one fight I can remember, but other than that, it's as simple comes. There's no real spacing to be aware of, no stamina management. I don't want Little Nightmares X Dark Souls, but it's never been engaging to press a single button over and over again. I'd be happy with 2. Look, it doesn't detract from the experience as much as it could, because most enemies are the ones you run away from. Their designs are an interesting case for me, actually. I don't know if I'd call them that inspired visually. They are more than competently designed and look fantastically terrifying, but they're not really unique, I suppose. Where they really shine is in their movement. It is creepy and frenetic. You know, the skin suits slithering across the floor, the pelicans chaotic flying. It's all ridiculously impressive. And the best part is that it feels real. I believe that those things would move like that, even if it's technically technically impossible and unnatural, it really speaks to how it's not in strict realism that an animation looks good, it's whether it looks like it could move that way. The environments are just as breathtaking. Dark forests that are suffocating but cavernous, or gorgeous yellow gold fields that swallow the ground beneath. There's a ton of visual and tonal diversity to sink your teeth into. All of this would run flat without some of the best directional audio I've experienced in a game. The soundscape itself is great, sound design is punchy and fitting, but I haven't felt this enveloped by an atmosphere in a long time, and I don't have surround sound or anything. Now usually I try to smoothly segue into talking about the soundtrack here, but if I'm honest, I'm struggling to grade it. Because as I'm thinking about it, I don't remember a thing about the music. To be clear, I don't remember it being bad either, and I very much doubt it was, but I'm not so sure what to say about it. It sounds good when I listen to it now, though it is simple enough to diffuse into the rest of the soundscape, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it's very pragmatic. It won't jump out at you, and it's not going in your Spotify playlist, but it most definitely contributes to the atmosphere I enjoy so much. The true driving force for that atmosphere, and one of the defining draws for this subgenre, is the commitment to animated movie-like directing. More specifically, some fucking beautiful composition. For a majority of Reanimal, the camera isn't controlled by either player. It is directed as if in a movie, and not in a gimmicky way either. Each shot is carefully composed with foreground framing elements to hold focus and background elements to give weight to the image. There are some sweet sequences with fancy camera work too. It is a surefire way to elevate such simple gameplay, and they execute it perfectly. There isn't a single design decision that could kneecap something like that, but there is something to say about what they didn't intend to be in the game. It can get quite glitchy. There is some immersion breaking clipping, a tendency to get stuck, tweak out, or what looks like a little stanky leg, but the worst of it was getting soft locked and having to restart the chapter to fix it. Briefly explained, we couldn't progress because an interaction stopped showing up for the both of us. Thankfully, the checkpoint wasn't far off, and these things will likely be fixed in due time, but it's always worth mentioning. Otherwise, the game runs perfectly well and co-op follows that trend. It was a very smooth experience overall. Everything I've just discussed is at the mercy of my next criticism. Most of what I experienced was good, and everything I said was true, but there just wasn't enough of it. This is not an I loved it so much it'll never be enough kind of flippant critique. There is just genuinely not enough for any one thing to tap into its potential. The first area, or handful of areas, with your first big antagonist is a perfect length. There are multiple encounters, stealth sequences, chases, set pieces, and story developments. It feels cohesive and could be standalone in a much smaller and cheaper game. The rest of the lot feel unfocused in comparison. They're never bad, and given enough material, I'm sure they'd flourish just the same, but it's hard to become attached to a scenario that runs so short, if you know what I mean. Everything is present, but there is just too little of each thing. And this is a perfect place to talk about money. This game cost $55 AUD and $40 USD. I clocked in around 5 hours, but that includes a few very long breaks and about 700p breaks because I'm trying to drink more water. I think you could realistically finish this game in 3.5 to 4 hours. That's not a ton of bang for your buck. Little Nightmares ran a similar length and, if I'm correct, was $20 cheaper. It'll be up to you to decide whether this game looks like $20 of extra value, but I'm not sure it is. I want to be really fair to this game, because what we have is really good, and that unparalleled direction is more than worth experiencing. In a vacuum, price not considered, I definitely recommend this one. I think it could have been a few hours longer, but it's definitely worth playing, and I guarantee you'd enjoy it, especially with a friend. Unfortunately, it does cost money, so again, it might just be up to you. If buying this game means the cat dies of starvation, probably don't buy it. But if you love the genre and Tarsier Studios' catalog, I'd recommend you find a way to give it a go. But you just, don't kill the cat. We've got eugenics for that. Hey, if you're still with me, I'm James. If you happen to enjoy the video, please consider dropping a sub. I promise I am in it for the long run. Thanks!